Tonight, federal agents have seized 700 boxes of evidence in what officials are calling the largest election fraud investigation in American history.
At 11:47 p.m. on a cold night, federal agents standing outside a government warehouse in Fulton County, Georgia, made a discovery that would shake American democracy to its core. 700 sealed boxes, 43,000 pounds of documentation. And inside those boxes, evidence of what investigators are now calling the most sophisticated election manipulation network ever discovered on U.S. soil. But this story doesn't start with ballots. It starts with body, and it starts with silence. Because what the FBI and ICE uncovered in Fulton County wasn't just fraud. It was infrastructure, a cartel-backed operation designed to purchase, control, and weaponize the American voting system itself. And the trail leads straight through Minneapolis, where 3 shootings in 6 weeks were buried, covered up, and erased from every official record. If you think you know how deep corruption goes, you don't. Not yet. Because what I'm about to show you connects election fraud to narcotics trafficking, human smuggling to political bribery, and one fictional governor's ambition to a Mexican drug cartel's master plan for permanent control. This is the story they never wanted told. And by the time you finish watching this, you'll understand why some truths are buried deeper than graves. 4:32 a.m., Fulton County, Georgia. The air is frozen. Fog rolls across empty parking lots like something alive, thick enough to hide an army. Streetlights flicker over warehouses that should be dark, but federal agents have been watching them for months, documenting every vehicle, every visitor, every suspicious movement. Black Hawk helicopters circle overhead, my rotors chopping through the silence like mechanical thunder. Their thermal cameras sweep the ground, painting heat signatures in glowing green. On the ground, over 200 federal agents move in coordinated strike formation. FBI, ICE, DEA, Department of Homeland Security, SWAT teams in full tactical gear, faces covered, weapons ready. They hit 6 locations simultaneously across Fulton County. The main warehouse on Industrial Boulevard, 2 storage facilities on the south side near the rail yard, a printing company near Hartsfield-Jackson Airport that operates 24 hours but never seems to print anything legitimate, a logistics firm in College Park that doesn't actually ship products, and a residential compound in the suburbs, a mansion with 12-foot walls registered to a shell corporation called Pinnacle Solutions, LLC. The breaches are surgical and devastating. Flashbangs shatter windows. Doors explode inward off their hinges. Agents in black pour through like shadows with lethal purpose, shouting commands, securing rooms, cuffing suspects before they can reach their phones. Inside the main warehouse, they find the 700 boxes stacked floor to ceiling in perfect rows, labeled as county record but sealed with industrial zip ties and marked with alphanumeric codes no election official recognizes. Forklifts are still running, engines warm, computers are still logged in, screens glowing, coffee cups are still hot on desks. Someone was here minutes ago, someone ran. Agents sweep through back offices and storage rooms and discover something that makes even seasoned investigators freeze in their tracks. Duffel bag, 17 of them lined up against a concrete wall, stuffed with cash. $8.3 million in bundled hundreds, still wrapped in bank band. And beside the money, sitting on a steel table like it belongs there, like it's part of the operation, 400 kilograms of cocaine, pure, cartel grade, stamped with the double-headed eagle insignia of the Azteca Cartel, a ruthless trafficking network that controls smuggling routes from Tijuana through Texas and all the way to Atlanta. But that's not what stops the lead agent cold. Not the cash, not the cocaine. It's the server room, hidden behind a false wall that looks like industrial shelving. 26 encrypted hard drives humming in refrigerated racks, digital ledgers, communication log, satellite phone record, and one steel lockbox sitting in the center, a prize, containing a single flash drive labeled Operation Keystone. They crack it open on site using portable forensic equipment. What they find inside isn't just evidence of a crime, it's a blueprint for the systematic takeover of American democracy. 6:19 a.m. FBI's Cyber Forensics Division, Atlanta Field Office. Analysts are hunched over glowing monitors in a darkened room, fingers flying across keyboards as layers of military-grade encryption peel away line by line. The flash drive contains a master network diagram so complex it looks like a spiderweb designed by a paranoid genius. Operation Keystone, a cartel-engineered plan to infiltrate and control election infrastructure across 6 southeastern states: Georgia, Florida, Alabama, Tennessee, South Carolina, and North Carolina. At the center of the diagram, connected to every node, every transaction, every operation, is one name that makes the room go silent. Governor Marcus Aldridge, a fictional two-term politician who built his entire career on anti-corruption rhetoric, border security promises, and law and order campaigning. But his digital signature is embedded in every layer of this network like a fingerprint on a murder weapon. Encrypted authorizations, offshore wire transfers, shell company registrations, warehouse access approval, software update schedule. He didn't just know about this operation, he designed it. The money flows like water through a maze built to hide the source. The Azteca cartel funnels cash through ghost corporations with patriotic names designed to pass compliance checks. Patriot Holding, Liberty Logistics, Freedom Consulting Group, American Eagle Solutions. They create sham charities that donate to political campaigns and voter outreach organizations, fake nonprofit foundations that fund community programs while laundering millions, restaurant chains across the Southeast that report inflated revenues and wash cartel cash through daily receipts. Construction companies that win government contracts but never actually build anything, just shuffle money and file perfect paperwork. The money moves in circle. It flows from cartel drug sales in Los Angeles and Phoenix into Grand Cayman accounts. Then it shifts to Panamanian banks under corporate names that change every 6 months. Then it flows back into the United States disguised as consulting fees, legal settlements, real estate investments, and campaign contributions. Every transaction is clean on paper, filed with the IRS, recorded in ledgers. Every dollar is poison underneath. But the real nightmare is buried in the operational files, in folders marked Phase 2 and execution protocols. Governor Aldridge didn't just take cartel money and look the other way. He gave them access to the core of democracy itself, to voter registration databases containing millions of records, to ballot printing contracts worth tens of millions of dollars, to election software update schedules that control how votes are counted, to warehouse security codes where ballots are stored before and after elections. He turned election infrastructure into cartel infrastructure, piece by piece, contract by contract, bribe by bribe. Investigators trace the connections deeper and discover a parallel network that's even more disturbing. I know the Azteca cartel doesn't just move cocaine and methamphetamine across state lines. They move people. Human trafficking routes run parallel to ballot manipulation networks like twin highways to hell. Migrant smuggling corridors double as cash courier lines, with the same trucks, the same drivers, the same safe houses used for both operations. And every route, every checkpoint, every safe house, every cartel stash house is coordinated through encrypted channels that lead back to the governor's inner circle, to his chief of staff, his director of operations, his hand-picked election security advisors. This is not corruption where a politician takes a bribe and grants a favor. This is command-level collusion where a public official becomes a cartel executive. This is not negligence or looking the other way. This is engineered treason, designed and executed with precision. And the truly terrifying part? The operation has just begun. Phase 3 is still in the planning files, waiting to be activated. 7:45 a.m., Joint Task Force Command Center, FBI Atlanta Field Office. The room is packed with federal agents, analysts, tactical commanders, and representatives from every major law enforcement agency in the region. A massive digital map dominates the main screen, stretching across the wall like a tactical battlefield display. 63 red markers pulse across Georgia, Florida, Alabama, Tennessee, South Carolina, and North Carolina. Each marker represents a location tied to Operation Keystone, each one a target. Cartel safe houses where enforcers live and weapons are stored. Ballot storage facilities with compromised security. Corrupt officials still operating in positions of power. Money laundering fronts disguised as legitimate businesses. Print shops with suspicious government contracts. And human trafficking transit hubs disguised as workforce housing complexes, migrant shelters, and agricultural labor camps. The mission is called Operation Clean Slate, and it's the largest coordinated federal law enforcement operation in southeastern United States history. Over 1,000 federal agents mobilized and deployed, 72 SWAT teams from 6 states, Black Hawk helicopters equipped with thermal imaging and tactical support capabilities, armored tactical units with battering rams and ballistic shield, U.S. Marshals leading fugitive apprehension team, Border Patrol tactical groups specializing in cartel operations, and air support from the U.S. Navy, with 2 warships positioned off the Georgia coast to intercept any cartel evacuation attempts by sea, cutting off escape routes before they can be used. They move at dawn, hitting every target simultaneously in a synchronized strike designed to prevent warnings from spreading through the network. In a warehouse outside Savannah, Near the port where shipping containers arrive daily from Central America, agents breach a cartel superlab producing industrial quantities of methamphetamine and fentanyl pills for distribution across the eastern seaboard. 300 kilograms of meth crystallized and bagged, 1.2 million fentanyl pills pressed and ready for street sale, enough to kill half the population of Georgia. Industrial pill presses still run, motors humming. Night workers in masks and gloves scatter like roaches when the flashbangs detonate. But ICE agents are already blocking every exit, every window, every possible escape route. 18 cartel members are taken into custody. The drugs are seized. The lab is dismantled. In a gated estate in Buckhead, one of Atlanta's wealthiest neighborhoods where governors and senators and corporate executives live behind walls and cameras, federal teams storm the home of a fictional deputy secretary of state named Victor Brennan. They find $2 million in cash hidden in the wall, vacuum sealed in plastic and tucked behind custom panels, encrypted phones that connect directly to cartel command networks in Mexico, and hard drives containing voter roll manipulation software designed to flip registrations from one party to another, delete records of voters in targeted districts, and create phantom voters who don't exist but whose ballots are counted anyway. Brennan is arrested in his bathrobe, still holding his morning coffee, his face pale with shock and the sudden realization that his carefully constructed criminal empire is collapsing in real time. In rural Alabama, near the Florida border, where highways cut through empty farmland and forests, SWAT teams descend on a farmhouse that looks abandoned from the road but is actually a human trafficking way station used by the cartel to hold migrants before moving them deeper into the country. 43 migrants held in locked shipping containers behind the barn. Men, women, and children living in filth and terror. Cartel members armed with assault rifles open fire when agents approach. Hot muzzle flashes lighting up the dawn. Federal agents return fire with precision. 3 cartel enforcers go down, 1 dead, 2 wounded and cuffed. The migrants are freed, blinking in the daylight, crying, shaking. Medical teams rush in with blankets and water and translators. Near the Florida-Georgia border, agents uncover a hidden drug tunnel system running beneath a logistics warehouse that's supposed to store auto parts but hasn't shipped a legitimate product in 2 years. The tunnels stretch for miles underground, equipped with rail carts, ventilation systems, LED lighting, and communication hubs coordinating schedule. They find 2 tons of cocaine stacked in waterproof packages, 1,700 pounds of heroin in bricks marked with cartel stamps, and server farms coordinating smuggling schedules with election event calendars, ensuring that major drug shipments moved during election weeks when law enforcement attention was focused elsewhere. Every major election date in the last 4 years corresponds with a documented surge in narcotics shipments through this corridor. It's not a coincidence, it's coordination. The underworld took more damage in 6 hours than in the last 6 years combined. The Azteca cartel's entire southeastern network is in flame. 11:30 a.m., FBI Evidence Analysis Unit, downtown Atlanta. Investigators are going through seized servers, transaction logs, internal emails, encrypted message threads, and communication records pulled from phones and hard drives. What they find is worse than anyone imagined, worse than the initial intelligence suggested. The Azteca cartel didn't just bribe a few officials and hope for the best. They infiltrated the system at every level, from street cops to federal judges, from county clerks to state legislators. 47 law enforcement officers across 6 states were on cartel payroll, receiving regular payments disguised as legitimate income. Sheriffs in rural counties, deputies in metropolitan departments, state troopers patrolling highways, border agents manning checkpoints, ICE officers with access to detention facilities, federal court clerks who could access case files and sentencing schedule. Each one received between $15,000 and $200,000 per month, paid through fake consulting contracts with shell company, offshore wire transfers to family members, or cash deliveries to post office boxes. Their job was simple but devastating. Look the other way when cartel convoys moved through their jurisdictions. Falsify patrol logs to create gaps in coverage, delay raid approvals until targets could be warned and evidence moved, leak federal investigation schedules so cartel operations could shut down temporarily, redirect resources away from smuggling corridors during key trafficking windows. But the real betrayal, the one that makes honest agents sick to their stomachs, runs even deeper than corrupt cops taking bribes. In Minneapolis, Minnesota, 3 separate shootings occurred in a 6-week span between November and December of last year. All 3 victims were federal informants working with ICE to expose a human trafficking ring connected to the Azteca cartel operating in the Midwest. And all 3 shootings were ruled gang-related by local police and closed without serious investigation, filed away as street violence in a city struggling with crime. But they weren't random. They were executions. ICE agents in Minneapolis requested federal backup, filed reports, flagged the pattern, demanded resources. Their requests were denied by a fictional regional director named Thomas Calloway, a 20-year veteran with a spotless record and a secret bank account in the Cayman Islands. Investigators now know he received $400,000 in cartel payments routed through a shell company called North Star Security Advisors, a fake firm that claimed to provide consulting services but existed only to launder money and pay bribes. The shootings were covered up. Evidence was destroyed or lost in bureaucratic mazes. Eyewitnesses were intimidated by men who knew their names and addresses. The cases disappeared from databases like they never happened. One honest ICE agent named Sarah Dominguez tried to push the investigation forward, tried to get answers, tried to demand accountability. She was reassigned to desk duty reviewing visa applications and threatened with termination for insubordination and failure to follow the chain of command. Now, she's sitting in a federal safe house with armed guards outside her door, giving testimony that will dismantle an entire regional command structure and send dozens of officials to prison. Federal agents are arresting their own colleagues in conference rooms and parking lots. A senior sergeant in the Georgia State Patrol who coordinated safe passage for cartel drug convoys by redirecting traffic stops. A deputy chief in the Fulton County Sheriff's Office who provided warehouse access codes and security schedules. A federal judge who dismissed human trafficking cases in exchange for campaign donations funneled through nonprofit fronts that looked legitimate on paper. This is not a few bad apples spoiling the barrel. This is a second enforcement system built inside the first. A parallel police force controlled by the cartel and shielded by Governor Aldridge's political machine, operating in plain sight while everyone looked the other way. The badge will be rebuilt from the ground up, one honest officer at a time. 2 p.m., Department of Homeland Security National Operations Center, Washington. D.C. intelligence analysts zoom out from Georgia, expanding the map to show the full scope of what Operation Keystone really was. The screen fills with red lines crisscrossing the eastern United States like veins in a body. This wasn't just a 6-state operation. It was a continental network designed to move product and manipulate outcomes across 14 states simultaneously. The Azteca cartel built smuggling and manipulation infrastructure across the entire southeastern and midwestern United States over the course of 6 years, slowly, carefully, buying one official at a time, one contract at a time, one election at a time. They used trucking contractors with federal shipping clearances to move narcotics in refrigerated trailers labeled as agricultural products, produce from Florida, poultry from Georgia, frozen goods that never got inspected because the paperwork was perfect and the drivers had badges and the companies had contracts. They exploited green energy grants from the federal government to fund warehouse construction near key election districts, using taxpayer money to build cartel infrastructure while politicians celebrated job creation and environmental progress. They purchased farmland along interstate corridors through shell companies to create hidden transfer points where trucks could pull off the highway, swap cargo, disappear back into traffic without ever stopping at a way station. Every route was calculated using logistics software that would make Amazon jealous. Investigators traced shipment logs seized from servers and discovered that the cartel was moving an average of 4 tons of cocaine and 1,200 pounds of fentanyl per week through the southeastern United States without triggering a single federal alert, a single DEA flag, and a single suspicious activity report. How is that possible in the most surveilled nation on Earth? Because way stations were shut down for maintenance exactly when cartel convoys passed through, with maintenance schedules signed off by transportation officials on cartel payroll. Because border checkpoints were understaffed during peak smuggling hours, with staffing decisions made by administrators receiving offshore payments. Because shipping manifests were altered by clerks working in logistics hubs who made $20 an hour officially, but received $5,000 a month in cash delivery. Because the system wasn't just corrupted, it was redesigned from the inside out to serve cartel interests while maintaining the appearance of normal operation. But the most chilling discovery is buried in the final phase files recovered from Governor Aldridge's encrypted drives. He and his cartel partners weren't just running an operation, they were planning to expand Operation Keystone into a permanent control structure that would last decades. They called it Phase 3, Foundational Integration. The goal was to turn Georgia into a cartel-protected state where election outcomes, judicial appointments, law enforcement leadership, legislative priorities, budget allocations, and policy decisions would all be influenced or controlled by cartel interests working through corrupted officials who looked legitimate to the public. It wasn't just about winning elections or moving drugs. It was about owning the system itself, forever. They were building a shadow government that would operate parallel to the legitimate one, a second democracy where votes were commodities to be be bought and sold, where officials were assets to be deployed and controlled, and where the will of the people was an illusion maintained for appearances. This was not infiltration where criminals sneak into a system and hide. This was reconstruction where criminals become the system and rule openly, and they almost succeeded. If federal agents had started this investigation 6 months later, if one whistleblower hadn't come forward, if one analyst hadn't noticed a pattern in financial transfers, the entire network would be operational right now, embedded so deeply it could never be removed without tearing down the system and starting over. 6 p.m., Federal Courthouse, downtown Atlanta, Georgia. Governor Marcus Aldridge is arrested as he steps out of his official vehicle, surrounded by state troopers who don't know their boss is about to be cuffed. Cameras flash like strobes. Reporters shout questions that echo off marble and concrete. He says nothing, his face frozen in disbelief, jaw tight, eyes scanning for an escape that doesn't exist. His hands are cuffed behind his back by an FBI agent who's been investigating him for 8 months. Federal agents escort him inside through a side entrance to avoid the growing crowd. He is charged with conspiracy to commit election fraud, racketeering, money laundering, conspiracy to distribute narcotics, human trafficking facilitating, and acting as an agent of a foreign criminal organization. The judge denies bail, calling him a flight risk with resources and connections in multiple countries. He will await trial in federal detention. Across 6 states, 73 additional arrests are made simultaneously, coordinated to prevent anyone from running or destroying evidence. State officials, county commissioners, law enforcement officers, court clerks, judges, election board members, contractors, logistics coordinators, cartel operatives. The network is collapsing in real time, and everyone connected to it is being dragged into the light. In Minneapolis, ICE Director Rebecca Landon holds a press conference in front of the federal building, her face hard, her voice steady but angry. She confirms that 3 shootings of federal informants were deliberately covered up by officials connected to the Azteca cartel. She announces that a full federal investigation is underway, led by the FBI and the Department of Justice Inspector General. She promises that those responsible will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, that there will be no plea deals, no reduced sentences, no leniency for anyone who betrayed their oath. She apologizes to the families of the victims, calls them heroes who died trying to protect others. She promises reform. She promises accountability. She promises that the system will be purged of corruption even if it takes years. But the damage is done and can't be undone. 3 people are dead because someone decided money was worth more than lives. 43 migrants were held in shipping containers like cargo, living in their own filth, told they'd be killed if they tried to escape. An $8.3 million bought silence from people who swore to serve the public. 400 kilograms of cocaine funded a shadow government that nearly succeeded. 1.2 million fentanyl pills were destined for American streets, for high schools and college campuses, for suburban neighborhoods and rural towns. And 700 boxes of evidence sat in a warehouse in Fulton County, waiting to be destroyed by people who thought they were above the law. If federal agents had arrived 1 day later, it would have been gone. All of it, burned in an incinerator, shredded into confetti, erased from existence like it never happened. Power does not always announce itself with violence and invasions and declarations of war. Sometimes it just needs silence and ambition. And people willing to look away when something doesn't seem right. Governor Aldridge did not build this network alone in a vacuum. He had help from dozens of officials who valued money over duty, who chose comfort over courage, from law enforcement officers who knew something was wrong but didn't want to risk their pensions or their careers, from a system that prioritized optics and positive press over integrity and truth, and from a cartel that understood one simple truth about power. You don't need to invade a country with armies if you can buy it with cash. The Azteca cartel didn't storm the Capitol or overthrow the government. They purchased access one bribe at a time. They funded campaigns and PACs and nonprofits. They exploited corruption that already existed and made it worse. But they turned democracy into a product that could be bought and sold like any other commodity. And they almost got away with it because people didn't want to believe it was possible, because the truth was too ugly to accept. But this story is not even close, because Operation Clean Slate is still unfolding across multiple states. More arrests are coming as analysts work through terabytes of seized data. More evidence is being analyzed in forensic labs. More connections are being traced through financial records and communications. And more officials are waking up to the reality that the corruption they ignored, the warnings they dismissed as conspiracy theory, and the crimes they covered up because it was easier than fighting have consequences that destroy lives and communities. Fentanyl that came through this network didn't just disappear into statistics. It killed people. Teenagers who took a pill at a party and never never woke up, parents who got addicted after an injury and couldn't stop, college students who thought they were buying something safe and died on bathroom floors. Every kilogram of cocaine that moved through these routes funded more violence, more trafficking, more corruption. Every election that was manipulated stole the voice of citizens who believed their vote mattered. If you are still watching this, tap like so more people see this story and understand what almost happened. Because this is not just about Georgia or Minneapolis or the Azteca cartel. This is about every state, every election, every system that relies on trust to function. Your comment expose if you want this corruption dragged into the light and examined by everyone. Share this with someone who needs to hear it, who thinks corruption is just a normal part of politics, who believes nothing can be done. Because the fight for accountability does not end with arrests and trials. It ends with awareness. It ends with people like you refusing to accept silence as an answer, demanding transparency, asking questions when something doesn't add up. This story is a fictional dramatization created for storytelling purposes, but the warning it carries is real and urgent. Corruption does not need a uniform or a title or an announcement. It just needs opportunity and people willing to look away. And the next time someone tells you the system is fine, that elections are secure, that officials can be trusted, I'd remember the 700 boxes sitting in that Fulton County warehouse. Remember the 3 dead informants in Minneapolis who tried to do the right thing. Remember the governor who sold his state to a cartel for money and power. And ask yourself the question that matters most. How many more are still out there right now, hiding in plain sight, embedded in systems we trust, waiting for the moment we stop paying attention, stop asking questions, stop demanding accountability? Because power doesn't fear investigations or raids or arrests. Power fears awareness. And now you're aware.